Hi everybody, welcome to Shivers. Today we're doing a new movie review for the new movie Iron Lung. This came out on January 30th from Markiplier. Markiplier is a YouTuber, very successful YouTuber, has over 38 million subscribers. He has been streaming video games for years, close to 10 years at this point. And he did a stream of a video game from 2022 called Iron Lung. This is a game by David Szymanski and Dread XP. This came out in 2022, is a Steam game, PC game, is all focused on this underground intergalactic expedition. So I'll just read the actual synopsis to you, and then we'll get into the story and into the review. If you want it to be spoiler-free, just fast forward to the end for the review of this new movie. So this game and this movie, Iron Lung, Markiplier loved this game so much that he wanted to turn it into a movie. So this is very heavily crowdfunded. It's pretty successful as it stands so far. It has over 6 million views on YouTube just for the trailer. And right now it stands at a 59% on Rotten Tomatoes, but an 89% popcorn meter. So that's what the actual audience rated it, a little bit higher than the critics did. This, I will say, going into the story, going into the movie, you must like video games to like this movie. I would put this movie in the same exact genre and feeling and category as a lower level Running Man and the exact same feeling I had when I left A Quiet Place for the very first time. So I'll read the synopsis to you and then we'll get into it. The stars are gone, the planets have disappeared. Only individuals aboard space stations or starships were left to give the end a name, the Quiet Rapture. After decades of decay and crumbling infrastructure, the consolidation of iron has made a discovery on a barren moon, designated at AT5, an ocean of blood. Hoping to discover desperately needed resources, they immediately launch an expedition. A submarine is crafted and a convict is welded inside. Due to the pressure and depth of the ocean, the forward viewport has been encased in metal. If successful, they will earn their freedom. If not, another will follow, and this will be the 13th expedition. So, I didn't look really anything up before I went to the movies to see it. They needed this in the movie because I didn't know what was going on. I'm not familiar with the game. I'm obviously familiar with Markiplier, but not familiar with the story or this game, and we jump right into it. So, having even just like a written blurb at the beginning of the movie, I would have preferred just to understand what's actually going on. I didn't read this until now, doing the review. So going into the movies, it was, to me, we just start with Markiplier. He's pretty much the only actor we see most of the time, but he is a convict named Simon, and he is going to go underground to this weird expedition place. So it is an ocean of blood. So the ceiling of this thing is dripping blood. It is supposed to not be great for your skin. And he has this camera. So he pushes on the wall to take pictures of everything that's down there. He doesn't know, because nobody's talking to him, what he's looking for or what this camera does. So he's down there for the very first dive, we'll call it, and loses connection with the people from the top. And so he's just kind of driving around. He has a map, he has the coordinates, and just starts taking pictures. And they then pull him back to the top, and once he gets back up there, they're not telling him anything. They're just like, yep, you're driving around in this buggy that is welded shut, so we can't get you out until you're completely done with this mission. You are a convict, you have no privileges, this is not supposed to just be like a fun day of work. We don't know what he did at this point, and he doesn't know. All he knows is that he was going down and coming back up, and they were going to let him go. But he found a picture of this skeleton, and so they're like, we need to send you back down immediately. Again, they're looking for resources, they're looking for something. Even when he's down there, he's like, what am I looking for? And they're like, don't know, just something. Whatever you find, bring it back up. So, against his better wishes, he goes back down for another time, but while he's still up, they're not listening to him and they're not telling him, so he takes a picture of all of them to just get their attention. And they're like, do you have any idea what you just did? You just blasted this whole place with radiation. We can't see through blood. So to create this special camera that blasts radiation all over this plane. So now you just kind of like killed a whole bunch of people. So he's super guilty about that and goes back down. So we're back down. The entire movie we're spent in the Iron Lung in this tiny little buggy. I really love the set, but it is a little bit too proppy. You have this like rusted inside because it's supposed to be like the dripping blood that's coming in through just the cracks. But then you have very high level tech. You have a whole crawl space underneath. You have these buttons that are supposed to move, but then they don't move. So there's just some discrepancies there with the actual set. To me, that makes it feel like the entire time I'm like waiting for him to get out of an escape room. So moving forward, he goes back down for a second time. He finds the skeleton. He takes another picture, and then they tell him to ram it. So he rams into it, hoping to like grab onto it. And all while he's like making these different trips and driving around, he's putting markers on the map of where he is. He finds this busted up other ship, and then that's the only time that we realize that they have done this expedition before. You know, again, if I read this synopsis before I went into the movie, I would have so much more knowledge. But finding out in real time with him, he was like, oh my God, you guys have done this multiple times before. Has anybody ever survived? Or is this just like a death mission? And they're like, yeah, sorry, we told you this is not like for fun or for work. So they tell him he's basically just trapped in his tomb, but he's found stuff already that nobody else has. So if he can get back to the site that he found where the other ship was busted, then he'll get his freedom. And they're like, we promise, we absolutely swear, we'll get you out. So while he's down there, he's losing oxygen. He is starting to see some things. He's getting shaken around in this ship by moving sediment and also like the weird monsters that are sort of down there. Just think of like the depths of the ocean, like Mariana's Trench. Like that's the vibe that we have, except it's all blood. So as he's taking more pictures, it's really obvious that we're in some sort of creature or character, but they never talk about what it is. He gets this weird message from a lady who was in the other ship, and we don't know if it's partly his imagination or if it's real found voice footage, but she basically says that they are essentially looking for like the God particle, and that there is something down there that is just so otherworldly that it doesn't matter what you believe, you're gonna believe in something greater than yourself after this whole mission. So it's not about survival, but it is about finding whatever the source of this energy is and shipping it back to the top. So things are getting worse and worse for Markiplier. As I mentioned before, his name is Simon. He is a convict, and at this point we figure out what he did. So as they're in all of this extraterrestrial area, I guess you can say, interstellar area, there's all these starships. And so he wanted to try to help somebody on a separate starship and ended up being a person who caused it to blow up. Oops. So everybody else on that starship died except for him. And then he got taken and was put into, I guess, a prison where they gave him the option, do this dive and then you get your freedom, or rot in jail. And he has a conversation with this lady who's at the top, who he radioactived before. And he was like, you promised, this is not cool. Like, I get that this is, you know, I'm being punished, but still. And she doesn't really have much to say. She says it's much more important to have the manpower down looking for what they're looking for rather than sitting and rotting in a cell. So they do have to say whatever they have to say to get people to go down there voluntarily. It doesn't really sound like they need it to be voluntarily, but regardless, I guess there's some level of ethics there. So he eventually finds this very bright light. He gets knocked into the wall. He's kind of concussed. So this whole second half of the movie is very challenging to reiterate because half of it you think is in his mind, half of it you think is almost like lack of oxygen induced, and then the other part of it is that he is actually finding these things down in the depths, but just don't really know what they are. So he finds his way back to this broken ship, and there's a computer at the back of the ship where it's starting to download everything from that other lost ship. And that's the biggest thing that the people at the top want right now, outside of just whatever this creature is down there and the bones and all that other stuff too. But he's lost so much oxygen at this point. He now comes to and has ripped the radio off the wall. The ceiling is dripping. Then he wakes up and it's all back to normal. And the lady from the top is like, it's been days and we've been trying to contact you. We've been trying to find you. Like, what is going on? You should be dead by now. And he only has one little bar of oxygen left. And they say, if you're able to get to that ship, download it, grab something from the crawl space, and then send that back up to the top. We'll do everything we can to come get you. But options are looking pretty slim because you don't have a whole lot of oxygen. It's been a couple of days and you're just kind of screwed. So the ceiling starts dripping blood and it's on his skin and his skin starts boiling up. The big window in the front that is mentioned multiple times, I have not played the game, but I assume it's a really big part of the game. It starts to crack and then he gets blood all over his face. So he knows that he's pretty screwed. So he's having this conversation with this lady from the broken ship who might be dead. He's having a conversation with the lady from the top who was also radioactive before, who maybe might be dead. He grabs a hold of the wall to try to stabilize himself while all the sediment is rocking, while this animal creature thing is down there. And his arm gets stuck to the wall because it's starting to mutate from the blood. So he has to rip his arm off. And then the lady from the radio and the lady from the other ship just keep telling him over and over that this is more than him. This is bigger than us. So she said, please go get that thing from the crawl space and then just float up the computer information with this life vest. And we basically thank you for your service. So he does all that. And as soon as he opens the door to the ship, he sees this very bright light and he says, it's bigger than us. And that's it. So you see the package rise to the top of the water, the blood, and that's how the movie ends. So it's pretty sad. It's really, really dreadful. It's incredibly suspenseful. Like I said, I left there feeling exactly the same as the first time that I watched A Quiet Place. And this was pretty similar even just in terms of silence, because he doesn't really say that much until he starts talking to these voices on the radio. And even still, it's not that much. Like, it feels like The Quiet Place. So I would say all in all, in terms of a rating, I would give this story itself a 3 out of 5. I think it's cool. I think, like I said before, you have to be a video game fan. If I didn't know that this was a video game and I went into this movie, I would say this movie would make a really great video game. So I think from that perspective, they did a great job. Originality, I would also give a 3 out of 5. I think we've seen a lot of things kind of like The Platform, where all of these prisoners are the people who are taken into experiments because they don't matter. So it's an interesting social conversation, but it's not a new one. It's one we've had multiple times before. What I do think is a great topic of conversation is how much his psyche is breaking down by just being down there, and also knowing what you're faced with. Like, this is your coffin. You're not leaving. And what you're doing is helping humanity, but do you really want to help humanity when they're the ones who screwed you over for trying to help them time one? It's kind of shame on me once, shame on you twice type of thing. So for acting, I would give it a 4 out of 5. I think some of the people outside the ship, we don't really see a whole bunch of. I would like more external participation, but I think Markiplier himself, he's going to have a new career if he wants one. Like, I wouldn't think for a second that this would have been his first movie. I think he did a great job. I don't have any complaints about acting. I think it was a little bit cheesy just from the voices, but it sounds like video game. So I can't complain. For production, I would give it a 4 out of 5, maybe even a little bit lower. But like I mentioned before, the the whole ship itself feels like an escape room. It feels like a set. It feels fake. I actually will go a little bit lower for production. I'll give it a 3 instead of 5, because also the biggest thing was sound quality. And maybe that's why I didn't really understand what was going on in the beginning, but I cannot wait to rewatch this movie with subtitles. There are so many conversations that happen in the background. There's so many little things, like watching it in the movie theater, you hear this like whispering behind you. And it seemed like it was something that was worthwhile to hear, not that it was just like this distracting information, but couldn't even remotely tell you. There were a couple of moments too where he was speaking and it was kind of off. And I've seen a few reviews online so far that say like the audio was off, but they were blaming the theaters. So I'm not sure whose problem it is, but watch it with subtitles. And then for scares, I would definitely give this a 4 out of 5. This is not meant to be a scary movie. This is a scary movie. This, just from a concept perspective of you're stuck down there and you have a job to do and you don't have any choice. That's really scary. And the idea that we're stuck in there with him the entire time, we don't know how long time has passed. We don't know what the actual truth is. We have no windows, so we don't really get to see much. So it's scary and it keeps you locked in. Like I was truly expecting to go in this movie, expecting to want to go to the bathroom halfway through or want to leave. Not even a flinch. It was like, oh my God, 2 hours is over. That's it. So all in all, that gives us a 3.5 out of 5. It is a little bit lower, but like I said, if you are a fan of A Quiet Place, if you are a fan of really, I think like any apocalypse style movie, you will like this one. And if you're a fan of video games, you will definitely like it. Like I said, I'm not familiar with the game itself specifically, but I am a gamer. I've always been a gamer. And to be able to have more video game movies, I think is just, hell, I'm for it. You know, I love Ready Player One, love Five Nights at Freddy's, love this. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. So let me know if you agree with my rating in the comments. Let me know what you expect from this movie or what you think of this movie. And I'm excited to review some more. We have a lot in February. We have Psycho Killer, we have Scream 7, we have Iron Lung, we had Send Help last week. We're on a roll. So we're starting the year off strong. I have a lot of hope for 2026 horror, and I hope you do too. So thanks as always for your support and for listening. We'll catch you next time.